podcast. Good day to be alive. Come to think of it, every day's a good day to be alive.
Hi, thanks for joining us for another edition of Chronic Conversations. We have a great one later tonight. I'll tell you about our guest here in just a moment. First, as always, I want to tell you about Not Bad Creations. Check them out on Facebook if you have any kind of paracord needs. They do the best work. They're very creative, very artistic. So if you're creative and have some ideas, or even if you don't, go look on their page. There's tons of things from keychains to toys to get backs. Whips, things for motorcycle riders, things for date night, whatever you're into. I don't judge, but just whatever you do, make sure you give those great folks a look up if you need anything made with paracord. Without further ado, we're going to get to our guest tonight. He is former pro wrestler, wrestling announcer, manager, and actor, all things creative. His name is Michael Kevin Lovett. Michael, thanks for joining us tonight, brother.
Thank you. It's an honor.
So as I was saying before we started, we had actually met up before. I believe at that show you were doing ring announcing, or were you managing at that one?
I was the general manager of Great South Wrestling Federation. Yes, sir.
It's hard to keep up with all of them, but
I know.
we did a little work together when I was still Jerry freaking Anderson. So it's good to see you again, first of all.
You too. It's a pleasure.
Been wanting to talk to you for a little bit. I'm always interested in all things, anything behind the camera, acting, editing, directing, all that stuff. I'm a nerd for, so I love talking about all that stuff, and it looks like we got plenty to talk about tonight. First of all, let's go back in time a little bit. You actually started out as a pro wrestler. Why do we not do that anymore? What led to not doing that anymore?
Well, I was a tremendous fan of wrestling as a kid. Growing up, I mean, as well as I do, in Middle Tennessee, we got all kinds of wrestling on television here. Back in the day, it was WWE, it was AWA, it was Jim Crockett Promotions, it was the Memphis guys on local channel 2, WKRN, everything. And I was just enamored with all of it.
Yeah.
And, it was a dream to get involved. And I was eventually presented with an opportunity to go down the road as a wrestler. I was given an opportunity by Bobby Horn, a.k.a. Sir Mo of the Tag Team Men on a Mission.
Okay.
When he was running the local promotion, Southern Extreme Wrestling. And we went to a lot of shows and we got to know him. And one of their boys by the name of Joe Pulley, who went by the name of Kilo, he pulled some strings and he got us in. And I had some training at the old Excalibur gym in Madison. It was behind the Madison Square Shopping Center, and they had a ring in there.
Nice.
And, they got us in there and, potatoed the mess out of us. And I learned what I did, and I had some simple squashes, tags, battle royals. And long story short, my first wife, my ex-wife, did not like me being involved with it. So trying to be the husbandman, I walked away trying to make the marriage work. But, long story short, that marriage fizzled about 2 years later. And but then my connections were gone. It wasn't like it is now where you can just pull somebody up on Facebook and reconnect.
Yeah. You had to pull them up on this thing we call the Rolodex.
Right. File cabinet. You're right. But so, I moved on. I went to college. I got a degree in graphic design. Mm-hmm. And of course, then, the internet started picking up, and I was presented to get back into it. A local promoter back then just outside of Dixon in Tennessee City by the name of Chris McWhorter, and he ran Tennessee Wrestling Revolution out there.
Okay.
So I came up with a new crazy gimmick called Fable. It was a little bit of Lord of the Rings-ish, a little bit based on the Gollum face paint, rhyming, all of that. And, it got over pretty good out there with the heel babyface alter ego. Of course, without television, that was really hard to get across the fans out there. They didn't really understand. If they saw the film, they would get it. Yeah. But if they hadn't, But and that was good. I was getting over out there. And but again, with that one, there was I was there about 6 months, and then I had finished up a tag match and gotten a really good reaction from the crowd. Mm-hmm. And then I logged on to the forum or whatever they had later that night. It turned out one of the guys I was working with later on, had bumped into a fan holding a cup of hot coffee, and they got burned, and there's a big fight that broke out, and so they wound up losing the venue.
Gosh.
And so yeah, that was over. But then after that, everything just dried up with wrestling. So I moved on to acting.
It did. It goes in cycles. It seemed like when I first started, it was on an upswing. It was literally headed. It was at the peak, heading towards the downswing right when I started. And about the time I got out, it was starting to head up towards the peak again. So I have great timing, if nothing else.
Yes, sir.
What led you? Was it the professional wrestling or something else? Did you always think about acting? And what led you to wanting to do some acting?
You know, the opportunities with wrestling had just dried up, and I had some friends that were in the acting industry, you know, doing local things. So I thought, you know what, I'll go give that a try, and you know, started doing some local acting and things like music videos. You know, I'm right outside of Nashville, so you know the country music industry is really big here.
Right.
So there were some opportunities there, and then it led to film and television. You know, one thing led to another, and very quickly I'd established a resume of about 50 productions in film and television, and then that, as luck would have it, opened up the door to professional wrestling again. And you know, I was presented with an opportunity to go out to, you know, Dunlap and be the general manager of Great South Wrestling Federation, and it's just been rolling since then.
That was some fun times.
It was.
I enjoyed my time there. Hope card runs out though, kids. So enjoy it while you're there. Enjoy the journey.
That's right.
Every journey comes to an end, as mine did, and that's sort of why I got into podcasting, which led into wanting to create content, which led into a childhood dream of mine of writing skits and sketches. It's
Yes.
weird how one thing leads to another. So then
That's
I'm
right.
sketches, horror shorts. I'm starting to shoot. I'm taking film school stuff. It's weird at this age starting something new, but it's exciting. Was it just as exciting for you starting acting? Were you nervous leaving wrestling into something new? Did it fit like a glove? You know, because this stuff for me, it seems like I'm on a certain path, and I just keep down that path. Was it
Right. You know, with acting, I wasn't as nervous as when I broke into wrestling. You know, with acting, you get retakes, you get do-overs. If you screw something up, you can just go back. In wrestling, you can't do that.
One take
So,
live?
right. So yeah, it was totally easier.
Yes, that's the same. I feel a lot better acting in front of the camera than I do in the ring. And really, the only time I was ever comfortable was after I went through the curtain, because you know I was a shred of nerves all the way up going out, and then a shred of nerves after you get back again, wondering, you know, is everybody going to like this and stuff? When you started doing your first acting roles, did you worry if you're going to be accepted the same way you were in pro wrestling? Did you have any of those concerns, or were you just trying to have fun and do your thing?
Really just trying to keep the ball rolling. I mean, my first roles were pretty simple roles. You know, working as an extra, working in the background. You know, typically in film, I'm cast as a heel. And for me, it's a lot easier to get a heel over than it is to get a baby face over. You know, easier
you
to get.
look like a heel too. You definitely don't look like a baby face. You look, which I'll talk to you a little bit about something. Speaking of that, after the show off air.
Sure.
But there's something I want to talk to you about. Since you gave me a great idea. So you know, you're more comfortable in front of the camera. Do you plan on branching out any further into the film business, like directing or anything else, or is your passion purely acting?
I mean, I do have some experience behind the camera, doing a little bit of stunt work, doing you know, wardrobe, assistant directing, you know, on the set, you know, helping come up with shots and camera angles, and you know, there was one film we did where we were dumping a body, you know, playing a bad guy again as usual, and they were trying to shoot the scene holding the camera and showing them the villains, us,
Yeah.
you know, with the body in the trunk. And I said, no, put the camera in the trunk, don't show the body, and have it pointing up at us, almost like it's showing, you know, the perspective of the corpse. And yeah, that was unique and different, and it really looked good on camera. So, you know, and a lot of that came from
kind of a natural eye for it then.
A lot of that came from wrestling, you know, seeing the camera angles that they use in wrestling, and you know, yeah, totally.
Because you do everything in wrestling. You're your own writer, choreographer. you're the actor, you're the producer, the director, like you do everything. So you had at least a little bit of experience in each of those things.
Right. Wrestling has done that a lot over the years, using the camera to show the perspective
Mhm.
of the other guy, and I always dug that. So I wanted to, bring that over into my film stuff.
It's fascinating to me. I know probably after you started wrestling, I was talking to my wife Jen about this. Getting baked with Grand Jen, don't forget about her. And we were talking about like doing the movies and stuff. Man, I just lost my train of thought. What were we just talking about before I thought
You're
about my
fine.
wife distracted me, man. She's still a distraction. Even when she's not in here, she's not even with me today. But
It's all good. I understand. We're
she's
talking
always
about
on my
film,
mind.
and the camera angles and how they set all that up.
Yeah, it's one of those things like in pro wrestling. Once you've trained and you start becoming a pro wrestler, you watch wrestling different. Now that you watch movies, commercials, things like that, now that you've been an actor and you have a little bit of an idea of the director's role and some of the other roles, do you watch? Because I found out here recently, I've been watching films differently. I notice edits, transitions, all these things I
Mm,
never even thought about.
right.
Lighting, where's the lighting coming from? Where's it? Do you, when you watch a movie, you just sit back and you chill, or does your mind do that too?
No, I'm like you. I'm going straight to how I can see the cuts, where in a scene, the demeanor of one particular character here or the actor might not match identically in the facial expression when it switches the camera angle, and things like that. So yeah, and just different little things you start to notice once you've been in there, and
All the intricate things that come together to help tell that story. Because I guess my main job as writer, the thing that I do most is the writing, but I pretty much do everything. It's one of those things where each part helps tell a story. Sort of like in pro wrestling, you have the wrestlers, but you also have the referee, you have timekeepers, you have security, you have all these different intricate people playing the cameraman, how he shoots, where he's shooting. The wrestlers has a lot to do with how good it is, as you know. Um, is that a thing too that you think about going into acting that you brought with you maybe from pro wrestling?
it is just, I mean, in wrestling, you got to know where you are at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly when I got started, because we don't have guardrails in the independents, a lot of the time. They told us, be aware of where you are at all times, because if you
Yeah.
suplex somebody into a fan over there because there's no guardrail, then you've got, legal trouble. So yeah, I did get that from even,
Because you got to hit marks. You got to. It's
right,
not just we need you to walk in this room and do this. It's we need to walk you to walk into this point, hit this mark.
right,
So it's very.
right. Even like if I'm in a film scene where we're doing something dastardly, like dumping a body or robbing a bank or whatever, like as soon as I walk on there, I'm like, have you guys notified the local police and told them we're shooting this?
Right.
And they're like, no, do we need to do that? I'm like, and I've had, after two or three shoots where the cops rolled up because it was a new director, a young director that didn't know to, notify the local authorities that they were doing this. I
Yeah.
learned to ask real quick. That we shot one scene, a robbery scene, in a burger joint in Nashville called Fat Moe's. And he didn't tell nobody, and the cops showed up, and one of them ran in with a shotgun. He saw the cameras, and so yeah, that's one thing I learned is you got to let the local police know if you're doing anything like that.
Yeah, you definitely want permission where you're shooting. You want there's so many other details that go into filmmaking and things than just the story itself, like we were
Right.
talking about earlier. Like I said, each piece helps tell a piece of the story. The writer tells a piece of the story. The director deciding, what the writer's vision is for these things. He decides that.
Because I only opened one box.
Oh, that's funny. That was the wife, by the way.
I got that. I figured that out.
She didn't getting baked with Gran. A side funny story: she had gotten these cups and she thought they were two different sizes, and she's been going through this thing where she set them all up and seen they were all the same size. And I was looking, I was like, yeah, none of them looks fatter or anything else. She just came to show me that she had another box that she hadn't opened that actually had a different size. All things great, all things podcast.
Right, right.
Back to the acting, the movies, and the intricacies. I wanted to touch base on each part of it. So you have, like I said, the director of photography, you got the director, each putting their vision in, and then you have in post, you have an editor. Like, how important is it for a director, a filmmaker, a studio to trust their editor because they can make that look any way they want to. They can tell whatever story they want to with the footage given. In that situation, is it do you prefer to work with editors? Maybe you think that you've known, or are there just like how do you know you can trust an editor to get your story across and not to try to present maybe their vision or their creative vision?
Right. Well, and everything so far, everything has been really intricately, excuse me, networked.
Right.
Where a lot of us are doing double duty, like doing acting and editing, or the director is directing and editing. So so far it's been that way, and it hasn't been a whole lot of chaos as far as having to relay things back and forth between editors and producers and
Do you
directors.
think that helps having a smaller staff with people doing multiple roles? Do you think it maybe runs more smoothly that way?
I do because it's a smaller chain of communication,
Right.
and things don't get lost in transit that way.
Gotcha. And if the person, especially if the director's the editor, I mean, that's what better situation you'd have, or possibly, like you said, the actor that's an editor or things like
Yes,
that too. It's just amazing how many pieces there are to the puzzle that creates the story. Because when you watch a movie, you think of the camera guy, the director, and the writer, but there's so many intricate pieces there are in wrestling too, as we've talked about. How do you show? Do you show? I saw this meme not too long ago, and it was talking about show appreciation to your referee, the people in the, all the other staff working, the people that put up the ring, because they're an intricate part of it too. Are studios pretty good, or people that you work with pretty good at showing their appreciation for things like that, and things for you doing multiple roles and
sure, absolutely. They're always appreciative with the extra stuff. Even
awesome.
with a history in wrestling, helping out with the choreography, showing somebody how to work a punch, because actors they don't really know, and so yeah, all that helps out tremendously on film sets.
And that's a difference too. I've choreographed 1,000 matches, but never a film scene. So there's things coming up where I'll have to choreograph, and I know it has more to do with camera angles and a look
Yes, sir.
than because I can be a little stiff. Back in the day, I'm not good at working punches. I was just never good at the magic. I wish I had learned that way, but I didn't. So I was a little stiffer than I should be. What was it hard for you if you've done some action translating, going from the different style of what you need to do in pro wrestling and choreography and stuff to now you have a camera that's got to hit at a certain angle and things like that? Did that translate pretty smoothly, or did you have to like learn a whole new style of that?
It has been smooth simply because I'm involved with setting up the cameras and the equipment and the sound and the background and everything, and I can kind of get a feel for how where everything needs to be, to be able to work the fight scenes or the rough and tough stuff
Yeah,
that is in the films.
right. Yeah, because it's sometimes, like I said, there's similarities, but sometimes I guess it can be like a whole different ball game. The one
Right.
thing I do like in this field versus pro wrestling, I feel like I have more. Of course, I do everything, so of course I can try to think creatively. But just even in one section of it, even if it was editing or whatever, I still feel like I have more creative freedom than I did versus when I was simply fulfilling what the booker needed done to tell his stories. Do you find it's more enjoyable, or do you like more stringent or strict, or people, given that to you? Or do you like the more creative freedom?
I mean, I'm good with either. If they want me to come up with stuff, that's cool. If they want to give me stuff, material, that's fine. I mean, it really depends on your chemistry with the people that you're
Right.
working with on the set, between the actors and the directors and everybody. If you have good chemistry with them, it's going to be a lot easier to come up with that. If there's not a lot of natural chemistry, just with who you are as people,
Hmm.
it's a little bit harder. But yeah, it all depends on the chemistry you have with the people you're working with.
Right. Have you had a chance as an acting? Have you been on mostly things you've done where you were strictly had to read the lines, or have you been in any ad lib situations? Have you worked with any of that? And is there one preference of that versus the other that you prefer to do, or what do you like or don't like about each?
It's either or, but I mean, I can work with either. But with Timeless Dreams Productions and director Linda Lee, she kind of likes my material, so she likes me to come up with stuff on the fly there. Particularly with the comedy, I've always had like a slapstick sense of humor,
Yeah.
and so yeah, they always like my stuff there. So I do have some liberty there, but other sets they want to keep to the script. So it just again depends on who you're working with.
Which do you prefer? Is there one style you prefer, or just it doesn't matter, just whatever they need you to do, you're good and ready?
I mean the tearjerker stuff, like the Hallmark stuff, is a little harder for me.
Right?
Summoning emotion. I'm great at being a villain. I'm great at being an idiot. But
Right.
the emotional stuff is really hard for me to summon.
Yeah. Yeah. I know as a director, I'm an amateur, super amateur, but when I'm working with people, I basically work like a wrestling booker. This is the story I'm trying to tell. These are your lines, but you're the character. And so since you're the one that's got to be in touch with the character, I feel like sometimes you may have better lines than mine, so I encourage ad lib.
Yes,
It just feels more natural that if you're saying something that comes off the top of your head and it works, it's going to work better than something that's going to be written because it's literally natural, and you can't get any better acting than that.
agreed, definitely agree.
Yeah, I think now you have a ton of stuff coming up. I have a list here of films and different things. Is there anything out of these multiple things we talked about earlier, anything that's a favorite of yours or anything in particular that's a priority you'd like to talk about of your upcoming projects?
Oh, hold on, I gotta grab my list. I totally forgot.
No, take your time, sir. Go ahead and grab it.
Let's see. Well, the relaunch of the Universal Wrestling Federation is
That sounds interesting. We're talking like old school, like the man UWF.
yes, the Herb Abrams Universal Wrestling Federation, the one featured on Dark Side of the Ring recently.
Gotcha.
I was contacted by Wild Thing Stevie Ray about getting involved with a relaunch, and it's a slow process. Just like anything. You don't. City of Rome wasn't built in a day, so it's a slow process.
Right? You got to have a foundation, and then you just build on that foundation, basically.
Right. So that's where that is in the planning stage. But that's a touching one because when I got my first job, I got my first paycheck and walked over to Kmart. Kmart is extinct now. People probably don't even know what I'm talking about, but
You went, what?
right. But I walked over there. I was looking for a Coliseum video.
Explain things like Rolodex, phone book, and all these other weird.
Right. We're going in that direction. But, I walked in there looking for a wrestling tape, and the only one they had was the double tape of the UWF. I think it was Tag Team Tandems and Lumberjack match.
Wow.
And there was Wild Thing Stevie Ray on the cover of one of those tapes, and here we are doing business together today. It's just it's ironic how
it happens, especially in pro wrestling. I've met most of my heroes. I got to work with my biggest heroes from back in my day. It's always so surreal, isn't it? How do you process that in your mind? Like, I'm actually working with these people now.
The world is so small. It is so small. It's unbelievable. And so far, everybody's been great. I've worked with. I mean, some guys are a little standoffish, but again, a lot of that is just in their personality and in the chemistry. It's either there or it's not. It's not necessarily, any angst towards anybody or them towards you. The chemistry is either there or it's not.
That's why I say either things, resonate or they don't. Has there been anybody in particular you've enjoyed working with, actress wise, that you've had really good chemistry on an upcoming project that we might want to watch because of that?
Sure. The country music recording artists by the name of the Hammond Brothers, Gail and Dale. I was brought in as the villainous, the caretaker, on their series Lost and Lonely Highway. It's based on one of their songs. It's like a horror comedy, and we just had really good chemistry, and so those guys are a blast. They're always a hoot. even when the camera cuts, that they can't cut it off because that comedy is who they are in real life. So yeah, those guys are
Right,
a hoot.
that's just how they go along. Yeah, I love that. I love when you have that kind of chemistry to where whether you're in front of a camera or just sitting here having a drink together and bullshitting, it's the same kind of atmosphere.
Right.
I love the locker room atmosphere and the way people go on sometimes. And there's a guy doing a podcast coming up that he's trying to kind of capture some of that. But if they could capture that camaraderie on film, it'd be a hit for sure because it would translate and it resonates with everybody. That kind
Definitely.
of film and stuff. Is there any film that you've done that has particularly resonated with you, and the story itself was just something you did maybe because of the story?
Sure. I was in a Harry Potter fan film called hang on, Neville Longbottom and the Black Witch. And
These fan films are spectacular. They are better than script wise and some other things, especially plot wise. They seem to be doing better than Hollywood right now. So if the word fan film throws you off, don't let it. Like, these are legit. You need to watch these. So the one he's talking about now and all the other ones, go check that out for sure.
right, that one was actually put together by a legit film studio in Nashville, and they just wanted to, go out there and make the ultimate Harry Potter fan film. And I got cast as a wizard. They got to come in with the other wizards and save the day at the end of the film. And my line was cut. They decided to cut the lines, but I'm still there. So that was awesome. It's had like 8 million hits or something.
That is awesome. Some other stuff you have coming up. You told me about A Soldier Secret. Do you want to tell us about that a little bit?
Sure, A Soldier's Secret is another film by Timeless Dreams Productions and director Linda Lee, and it is about the sacrifices soldiers make, in the military, and the PTSD that some of them endure, and all that. Her son was injured in combat in Iraq, and he stays out here at the VA just down the road from us, and it's kind of his story and dedicated to him. But God bless him. But I got cast as a homeless, down on his luck military veteran, and that kind of guides the main character back to the real world after he's having time, mingling back into society after coming back home. And
People don't realize really how hard that is. Going from such a regimented, structured, high adrenaline situation to coming home to, I don't want to use mundane, it's beautiful things, the daily life of somebody, but it's different and it's hard to adjust, and it's sometimes it's hard to explain. So it'd be great to see this film maybe do a better job than most people could of telling that story and how it does and can affect people.
yes, sir. Well, right now the film is headed for Amazon Prime, and it's had a run in limited AMC theaters, so it's getting out there.
That is great. Yeah. Gosh, there's so that's pieces too of the filmmaking. Once you have the film, now what do you do with it? Right? You got to have distributors. You got to have other things. What channels and avenues and things have you seen? Because on a lower budget level, like I said, you just got to find solutions. What solutions have you seen that were maybe surprised you or made you go, that a lower budget place used to find a solution having to be lower budget?
Well, the main thing with that is, technology has made a majority of people, not watching in the theaters, not watching, on television, and they're watching, right here.
On
But
YouTube or something similar. I watch more podcasts, web series, fan films, and stuff on YouTube than I do anything anywhere else. And
right,
that's, my biggest decision was to release the biggest portion of it on that, because that's where you find everything from stand-up specials to movies to the fan films. It's amazing what all you can do with that. Now, you said you played the evil guy before. You've done some comedy and stuff like that. Now, you definitely have the look, but coming from playing evil guys, what was it like to play an FBI agent and flip and be, or was he in, well, I don't want to give anything away if it's,
No, that one's already
it's
out. That
bad,
one's already out.
but what's it like to play an FBI agent after playing like more the evil villain character?
That one that was a little easier because he was an older FBI agent, and he's basically chasing Russians and aliens from outer space.
Nice.
And there suspects it's aliens and cloning, and he's burnt out and he's old. And they shot it at like 2 o'clock in the morning, just outside of Birmingham, and they wanted me to be tired, so I assume that's why they shot it at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had to work the next morning. So that's all it was. I got strangled to death at the end by a big 6'6" Russian character,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
yeah, so that one was easy. It was just again, anything but the Hallmark stuff, I can flip the switch easy. But
Right. I I have a super sensitive side, but to bring it up on command is a different thing. Like, I'll cry a G.I. Joe cartoon if one of the G.I. Joe characters dies. Like, I'm just a sensitive dude. But again, to bring that kind of thing on command as an actor, like, what process do you use? Do you method? Do you just dig deep looking for something that hurts you, or what's your way of getting into something like that that's not as easy as other things to pull to the surface?
rubbing whiskey or lemon juice in my eyes,
Nice.
that works
Little
like a
pepper
charm.
spray. What's the most important thing an actor should know for trying to convey a message? Because that's what you're basically trying to do, right? What is the most important thing for you trying to convey the message of the film? And I will say, I'm just going to guess and say some small details, the eyes, the eyebrows, the different things like that, because that's what makes it in wrestling. Is that the same in acting, or is there differences, and what are those if there are?
It is. It is. The selling is a really big part of it. Also knowing your audience, because if your character is airing on one network with one audience, it's not going to transcend the same as it would, with a different audience. You got to really know who your audience is too.
Right. I know, like when you're writing scripts, we're talking about, how you decide how to present the information given and what emotions and things like that. And I know about the different parts of the script that gives you the action line and the different things that give you the little details. But I also know some people don't give those at all. Have you worked with anybody who were kind of vague, so you had to pull out of them what they wanted, or has everybody been a pretty good director and pretty good scripts about letting you know exactly what you need to convey? Because it's very important. Somebody can make the difference and convey apathy instead of sadness, and it can make all the difference in telling the story.
So far, it's been really good. Whether it was, working as an extra on the television show Nashville, where they were on CMT, that's really
Right.
tight knit there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, they put everything pretty much under a microscope, because they're trying to get this thing out there, making money. So usually
Right.
they're really good about letting you know what they want out of you. It's not like, maybe a wrestling thing where you go in and you just sit down with the guy you're working with and you guys sort it out,
Right.
or they sort it out.
You
Typically,
have to sort it out for you, right?
right? Yes, sir. Yeah, with a fine, fine pick or whatever.
Yeah, because as an actor, that's the kind of thing I would want to read. Like, I want you to tell me exactly what you want, and then I'll give it to you. But if you're vague or whatever else, then I may give you the wrong emotion, or I may convey anger when he should be, whatever. What is the most fun character you've played so far that you just purely enjoyed for whatever reason?
Most fun, most fun. There was, again, as I was mostly getting cast as a bad guy,
Mm-hmm.
villain, kind of typecast there.
Right.
Director Linda Lee in Timeless Dreams Productions gave me the opportunity to play a daycare owner, and
Okay.
so
I
yeah,
would
that one.
definitely never, but that's beautiful. I would love seeing that just because of the little bit of mind thing it would do.
Sure, okay, I will post that one.
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting one. I would definitely watch that just right off. You don't even need any more plot or anything. Um, have you ever thought about your own projects? Like, do you have your own movie ideas, your own writing ideas, or just ideas that you like to bring forth one day that maybe you want to put out to the atmosphere and try to kind of manifest?
I do, and so far, I've gotten opportunities to throw
Sure.
some of those out there. So, but it just depends on, the director's vision versus my vision
Right.
and how everything works out together.
Yeah. But overall, you're having a pretty good time so far, and it's where wrestling's missed out. Has it filled in holes? And do you think there'll be a point when you're done with wrestling and pursue this full time, or do you think wrestling's something you'll always keep kind of kind of there in your back pocket?
Wrestling was my first passion. That was my childhood dream. And
Right.
I left it young
Hmm.
again because of, issues with the
Yeah.
previous marriage and everything. But, the road led me back. And that was my first dream, and that's never going to change. So, as long as that road is going to keep going, I'm going to see where it goes.
I've just left that relationship, so it's still a little tender. So I'm taking some time, but I believe probably at some point in time I'd like to come back in some capacity, as you did, possibly in commentating. I've been boxing commentating and found it very enjoyable. So I thought maybe commentating on the wrestling might do that as well. What other dreams do you have, or are there any outside of acting and wrestling that you want to pursue? Any hidden hobbies? You play guitar, sing, really good at tennis, anything like that?
I'd like to retire early if I can get this thing to take off, So that's a dream. But
Everybody's in this for the money, but there's two camps, right? Everybody starts out because of the passion. You love it and you actually want to do it. I'm sure you've worked on movies to where, like you said, it was a super professional Hollywood production and very detailed, and we're trying to make some money, and we all want to make money. But then there's other people who are still doing it more purely for the passion of the art. What are the differences in working for those two type of people?
well, so
Not
far
saying.
I haven't really seen anybody that didn't want the film to take off and do good,
Right,
I mean,
right. Everybody wants to make money
right. And
because this stuff ain't cheap to do. Let me
right.
tell
I
you.
mean, and I've heard guys say in wrestling, if you're not in it for the money, then then
Right,
you don't need to be there. But maybe that's their perspective. But um, then there's the local guys that do it for 20 or 30 bucks, and head down the road to the Waffle House, go home, and they're happy. And that
right,
was me. That was me for a long time. I was just thrilled to get back in because I didn't think I would get another run. I'd lost my connection, so that was me. Just cover the gas, I'll be happy.
right.
But now I have bigger things apparently on the horizon. So as long as this road is going to take me somewhere, I'm going to go along for the ride.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's the way I'm seeing it. It's truly all of life is just a ride, and I'll say enjoy the journey a lot because mostly because I made up this word called epiphanize. There's certain things you hear as cliches all your life, and then you epiphanize them, and they're a part of your being now. And enjoying the journey is one of those. I'm not like before when I was younger. I would be looking at the end of the film, getting it out there, who sees it, blah blah. But now I'm just enjoying being in the writing process. I'm enjoying it when I'm in, pre-production things. I'm enjoying each step of the process more now. Do you find now that you're older, you do that with the acting and the wrestling, that you're enjoying the process or the journey more, or are you still looking for that end goal? I mean, we are, but it's sort of like the so pay thing scale. We're not. We're all looking to make a living, but there's people who do it for passion. There's people who purely do it for the living.
Right. Well, at 46, I move a lot slower now, so I kind of have to enjoy the journey from
Yeah, maybe
from
that's
that
it.
point. But at the same time, if you don't have that culmination, then the journey eventually, gets tired. So it's a bit of balance.
Yeah, yeah. Because the end, like what when you get to the end, you get to the end. You've won the title. You've made the film. You authored the perfect book. Now what? Like now there's the. It's almost like winning a video game back in the day, and you got a few fireworks and things, and it was so a letdown the ending of it. But definitely, I do think there needs to be some balance, and without the end goal, you can't have the journey. So
Right.
it's just you got to keep it. As I've got older, I've learned to keep it, I guess, more proportionate.
Right. But at the same time, I've met some successful, rich people from film and wrestling that, you would think they would be happy with where they are in life, but it's not always that way.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it's just a balance thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful for me because I'm literally at the stage where it's just costing me tons and boatloads of money, but I don't care as much even making it into the black at this time because I'm in that learning stage. And I remember being wrestling, and as much as everybody's heard the bullshit burger of you're doing it for exposure, you are, because when you first start out in anything, you need to be seen and you need people to see your work. You need for it to get out there. So you got to have a starting place. What was your very first starting place? What was your very first acting job?
Well, that would have been as a child doing some minor acting in school and plays and things like that. And of course, I got bored with that. I became a wrestling fan, and then
Cool.
that became my dream. But it kept going back and forth. Destiny just played out that way.
Yeah, it is weird. It always starts out in childhood because I remember my dad had a VHS, not VHS, 8 millimeter camcorder back in the day, and I would write little skits for me and my brother to do.
Very nice.
He would film them, and when I was real young, before I had a video recorder, I had a cassette recorder, and I loved Masters of the Universe, so I would do these little shows of Masters of the Universe, and I would do all the character sounds and the characters and stuff, and it's weird how much playing as a kid translate into doing this stuff now. Does it feel like you're just playing, or is it gotten to the point because I'm doing what I want right now? I don't have a boss, I don't have a director, an executive producer. I'm all those things. Is it getting to be where it's more like work now, or are you still having a good time and having fun like you were playing like when you were a little kid?
I'm still having a good time. Again, I'm getting back into the game late, and it's a blessing just to be involved, period.
Yes.
But,
yes.
again, now I've got some big eyes on my career right now in film and wrestling. And I'm thinking, hey, what if, I made it this far. So, why not?
I always heard, reach for the highest stars. That way, if you fall, at least grab some clouds on your way, right? I mean,
That's right.
I'm not
Absolutely.
reaching. And I advised to that because I was like you for a long time. I was like, well, how big could this get? It's just blah, 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 blah. It's like, but you don't know until you try. And I would rather try and fail than not try at all, because true failure to me is not trying. So no matter what age you are, no matter what hobby you do, no matter what you want to try or how good you are at it at the moment, the best time to start is right now.
That's right.
Put it off, but procrastinating, have faith in yourself. You'll either succeed or you'll fail, but at least you tried. And
That's
that's
right.
a more beautiful feeling than having the regret of at least I didn't try, correct?
That's right. I set my goals low, and I looked up to the sky and said, just let me have one last run before I get any older.
Right.
And wrestling, and then I got that, and it was really quick, and I said, okay, just let me work with somebody important that's done something,
Things happen.
and then boom, that was done, and then now, I'm at the wall of doing really big things, and and again, I'm sitting there thinking, it's a long shot, but yeah, hey, why not?
Yeah, it's crazy because it's almost, some people are scared of failure, but something that happens to me is I get a little scared of success. Like anytime, my numbers go up on the podcast, I get a little more nervous because now the responsibility feels a little heavier, and I don't have a lot of experience in all this filmmaking, but there's a lot of opportunities already happening, some that I can't even take because I'm not in a place to take them yet, and that's kind of scary in a way. Have you ever found yourself scared of success? Because what if I do make it? Then there's that next level and all that pressure and things. Do you think about that at all?
I do wonder what the other side of the wall is like.
Right.
I don't know if
So
you've
there's
seen
good, bad, everything.
I don't know if you've seen Conan the Barbarian, but when they're getting ready to storm the palace of Thulsa Doom, they see the girl and she says, "Do you know the horrors that lie beyond that wall? Then you go first." And
Right.
it's but I mean, there's a lot of sorrow on the other side of that wall. You've seen the famous guys that want to be left alone and they want to have their own locker room. They don't want to mingle with the people.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
remember how elated I was to sign my first autograph. I just got done working a battle royal for Southern Extreme out in somewhere near Cookville, and
Were you like, were you confused? Like you look like you want my autograph? Because
right,
my first thought in my head was, wow, it's just me.
exactly.
You don't realize what they're seeing. It's so crazy.
Right, but I was helping break down the ring, and this young kid came up and asked for an autograph, and I was like, "You talking to me?" And so my hand I was more nervous than he was. My hand was shaking and everything, and so yeah, that was a cool experience.
I remember working in Tennessee, and this younger teenager, maybe preteen, came up to me and took off his Tennessee Volunteers hat. If you're not from this area, you're not going to understand this, the significance of this. But to me, this is when I felt like I'd make it wrestling. He took his hat off and wanted me to sign it with a marker.
Well,
Yeah, I was like, "Are you sure?" It's like, "You don't have anything else? Like, I signed a piece of paper. You want me to sign your shirt?" He's like, "No, I want it on my hat. So when I put my hat on, I can see your name." I was like, "Yeah, give me chills talking about that story."
yeah, that's awesome.
Did you ever have any moving moments in wrestling? I'll tell a quick story. I was working for TWE, Jaden Newman's promotion, a great promotion out of Red Bank, and they had this thing where this kid had beat cancer, and he got this whole day basically. He got T-shirts and souvenirs and got to watch the show. And at the end, he came backstage and we were all gathered, and I was a true heel. I was method. Whether you saw me at Walmart or people probably thought I believed my own shit, all that, because I was heel 24/7. But I told you I'm a sensitive person, and this kid comes up and like, okay, you can have the rest of the evening with whichever wrestler you want. He'll take you in the ring and play with you and all this other stuff, right? Take pictures. He pointed at me, and it was like that autograph moment all over again. Like I got chills, like I teared up. I was like, oh my God. And this kid, I'm the bad guy, and I was probably mean to him and his mom, because when I'm out there, sometimes I wasn't thinking about people's feelings. I was so caught up in my character that I was. So for him to pick me out of all those people, it was a super touching and probably my favorite moment in all of wrestling. Have you had a moment like that made you go, oh God, this is why I fucking do this?
The one thing comes to mind back in 2005, I was wrestling as the alter ego Fable in just
I love
outside
that,
of.
by the way. I think you could have really went somewhere with it if you had time to evolve the character and some TV to put it on. Just a quick
Yes, sir.
just throw that out there.
Thank you. But I was wrestling for Tennessee Wrestling Revolution just outside of Dixon in Tennessee City. And one night I just totally blew a match, complete abortion, no crowd reaction, got knocked out, and the complete horrible match, got knocked out. It was horrible, and
Yeah.
I left so dejected, and thought about hanging it up. But then after thinking about hanging it up after that, they convinced me to come back,
Yeah.
and I got a huge pop that night. So that one was.
Nice. Those,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a beautiful feeling. Any kind of pop, just the recognition for what you're doing, that you're doing the right thing, because it can feel weird. It can feel like you kind of have. I'm sure you've heard imposter syndrome. Did you ever feel like you have that, or do you feel pretty comfortable in what you do now at this age?
At this age, yes. After three marriages and life, and acting and wrestling, nothing surprises me anymore. So
Edges, don't it?
right,
That's why I say it's real hard to surprise me or impress me these days. But your look, your work, the things I have seen have impressed me. So I would impress on everyone who's watching this to get out there and be a fan of Michael Kevin Lovett, to follow him on Facebook. He has a ton of upcoming projects. Just look up his name. I'm sure a lot of them will pop up. Is there anything else you want to tell anybody before we go, or anything you want to talk about that's coming up in particular
sure.
that I left off?
Can I just recount a couple of things?
Please do, sir.
Okay, again, check out my film A Soldier's Secret by Timeless Dreams Productions and director Linda Lee. It made a run in AMC theaters, and it is now headed for Amazon Prime, Momitu, and Exposure Plus TV. So check that out. The Last Passage with the same guys. Check that one out. Bermuda City is gearing up for another Comic-Con run, so check that out. I want to give a shout to my agent, Sean Mullen, over at TNT Pro Wrestling Booking Agency LLC. He gives me a lot of stuff, a lot of help, and yeah. So check all that out, and that's about it.
You're on Facebook. Is there any other social media, Twitter, or anything else they need to follow you at?
Pretty much everywhere. I mean, I'm not familiar with what everything is. I have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
We're just talking about Rolodex, so I understand. I was about to ask.
Right, right. A big cell phone, a big brick cell phone, you can.
Yeah. Just print out your MapQuest directions to find my next.
Right.
Catch
Wow.
my videos at Blockbuster.
That's right. I have Blockbuster stuff sitting right here.
Look, there's nothing I wouldn't do for. I know there's one store left, but for Blockbuster to come back and for me to have, even if it was the worst B movie ever, just to have something in a Blockbuster, to me would be like some kind of answering of a childhood dream in a weird way, don't you think? Like being able to go there on a Friday night and see your movie.
Right, right. Well, I haven't seen that yet. Of course, again, video stores are gone, so we don't get to experience that now. But it's online, so I guess it was a lot easier to accomplish that.
Right. Well, man, I appreciate you so much hanging out with me. I want to talk to you for just a minute after we end the recording. I appreciate you for being on here, man. I'm looking forward to seeing your future projects, and maybe we'll get to work together in some kind of filmmaking or wrestling capacity, because I know I've really enjoyed this conversation with you. I've enjoyed picking your brain, and thanks for letting me do that, man. It's been an honor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
All right, man, I'm going to wrap us up. Goodbye to Not Bad Creations. Make sure you watch Getting Baked with Gran, which we will have some new episodes coming up very shortly. We got some cake pops that are going to be made. A lot of horror shorts coming out. We are working on the Skitsy the Clown origin story that I will be headed to Savannah to start filming here very soon, so keep an eye out for that. As always, I have my little funny skits that I'll be coming out with from time to time, usually 3 to 5 minutes long, so it's really enough time for you to, even while you're taking a shit at work, to watch it, so no excuses. So watch my stuff, watch his stuff, watch Chronic Conversations, and keep tabs on his Facebook to see what's coming up next. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Peace. One more thing before I go, it's what I tell all my guests, is the most beautiful gift you can give somebody is a gift of your time, because it's something you can't give back. So thank you, the people that watched and gave us a gift of watching this, and you for being on here. Peace out.